Hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Hey. Enjoy that. I'm out. Let's learn the fun-sized story of flying corpses and biological warfare. In a remote corner of Central Asia, in the early 1200s AD, a group of fierce tribal nomads exploded onto the scene, soon to create the largest territorial empire the world has ever known. The speed of the expansion and their reputation for brutality would make their leader's name, Chinggis Khan, enter our collective memory, a personage representing the quintessential barbarian. But the empire of Genghis, as he is better known, was actually a highly sophisticated civilization, and their success can be understood through two main factors: geography and military strategy. The French leader Napoleon once allegedly said something like, "Geography is destiny." That lacks a lot of nuance, but some parts of the saying are true. And to understand the Mongols is to understand their geographic region. The Mongolian homeland sits squarely in the steppe belt, a largely flat grassland that stretches mostly uninterrupted from Eastern Europe to East Asia. This vast open field had little forests or mountains, but plenty of grass and other foods for livestock such as horses and sheep to eat. In fact, horses were likely domesticated first in this region. With pastures quickly depleted by herds, people were constantly on the move, and societies here tended to be nomadic. And with little in the way of natural defense or resources, sometimes it was much more lucrative to raid other groups for what was needed. Now let's imagine you live in a settled farming society. You have food, you have belongings, and you live unseparated from the edge of a territory full of people raised in constant warfare, used to pillaging for resources and luxuries, and can appear on horseback in the blink of an eye. Right, recipe for disaster. As various nomadic societies rose and fell in the steppe, cultures of Eurasia have had to deal with a constant threat from this geographical region. Now, the Mongols were already impressive on paper, with skilled military organization, unmatched mobility, and the devastation they rained down with their specialized recurved bows. But more intriguing is the psychological warfare that they waged. A favorite strategy was tricking the enemy into thinking that they were retreating from battle. Their opponents would charge after them excitedly, only to fall into an ambush of larger forces and quickly realize they messed up. Even their famed brutality was likely a psychological ploy. During a siege, first a chance to surrender and be spared was offered. If they were resisted and later victorious, the Mongols would massacre a large proportion of the populace, but leave some alive and allow them to run off. Why, you might ask? These refugees tended to run to the next fortified city, where they would strain resources like food and water. And oh yeah, tell everyone there about how their neighbors had just been mercilessly put to the sword by the Mongols. Living rent-free in the head. So maybe we should just surrender. But after the main wars of Mongol conquest, the previously dangerous steppe entered a period of relative stability, known as the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol Peace. They developed a postal system with relay riders on horseback, similar to the Pony Express, and protected trade routes. This thriving trade network on land piqued the interest of Italian merchant states, like Genoa and Venice, which controlled vast sea networks on the Mediterranean. With the Khan's permission, they set up trading colonies in today's southern Ukraine, close to a Mongol successor state, the Golden Horde. Of course, with people, their armies, and their merchandise travel pests and parasites. And in the 1300s, from east to west across Mongol territory, historians believe that rats and fleas brought along their buddy, Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that causes bubonic plague. Relations with the Italian colonies could be strained, usually when the Khan perceived the colonists overstepping his authority. Events like the murder or enslavement of Mongol subjects, apparently forbidden by the Golden Horde, could cause occasional attacks. Let's also remember that the Mongols were pro-trade and definitely pro-slavery, so these hostilities are probably better explained by the Khan's anger at having been defied. One of these periodic tensions caused a series of sieges in the 1340s by the Khan of the Golden Horde, Janibek. During these sieges, many Mongol soldiers were dying after developing large black tumor-like sores in their armpits and groin. Classic symptoms of bubonic plague, a disease that would eventually annihilate 30 to 60% of Europe's population. Now, medieval medicine theorized that miasma, or bad air, caused infection. We know today that's a load of crap, but they were certainly correct that exposure to decaying bodies could cause a world of hurt. True to their ancestors' tactical cunning, the Mongols devised a new strategy: let disease fight for them. They graduated from psychological to biological warfare, packing plague-ridden bodies onto catapults and launching them over the walls to infect the Italian defenders. To quote a contemporary account, "What seemed like mountains of dead were thrown into the city, and the Christians could not hide or flee or escape from them." This was one of the first instances of biological warfare in recorded history. That same account indicates that a group of defenders, some who had already been infected, escaped by boat to their home cities. And when they arrived in Italy, every city, every settlement, every place was poisoned by the contagious pestilence. These individuals were almost certainly not the only disease vectors which eventually brought the plague to Europe. But all this terror over Mongol ferocity, not knowing that pure spite over being disobeyed, with the help of some germs, was way more devastating. Remember, history isn't just kings and their sniffles. It's the story of you and me, just in different times and different circumstances. One big soap opera, and we should learn it that way. Of course, like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Join the conversation on Reddit, and consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.
I am never parking in that guy's spot again.